Bauman is a skilled writer known for telling true stories, and right now he's deep in the middle of crafting a new novel. The house is quiet, almost too quiet, when suddenly a piece of firewood behind him rolls across the floor all on its own, and it catches him completely off guard. Then out of nowhere, he notices a shadowy figure near the staircase. His heart nearly stops when he catches a glimpse of a woman who looks just like his late mother did in her younger years, standing right behind him. Something stirs in his memory, and he immediately goes to check the belongings his parents left behind. Inside one of the boxes, he finds an old pistol. It turns out that both of Bauman's parents passed away a long time ago, and their ashes are still kept safely inside a pair of jars. Feeling that the moment has finally come, he decides it's time to travel to Ireland to scatter them. But what waits for him there is something he never expected. This is hokum. After a long and exhausting journey, Bauman finally arrives at a hotel in the Irish countryside, and he carries his bags inside. Meanwhile, the hotel's owner, Brendan, is busy spinning a local legend. He tells of a witch said to roam the forest surrounding the hotel, a creature who hunts down anyone with a wicked heart and drags them off to another realm to face their punishment. Two young boys listen with wide eyes, looking like they're about ready to wet themselves from fright. A short while later, Bauman steps up to check in, where he's greeted by the receptionist, Peter. Peter apologizes on behalf of his old-fashioned boss, who rather than making guests feel welcome, has a habit of scaring them half to death, especially the kids, with all these myths and horror stories about the area. Once the paperwork is done, Peter hands over the room key and tells Bauman to get some rest. On his way up, though, Bauman finds himself completely lost trying to locate his room. Noticing his confusion, a hotel employee named Fiona steps in and kindly walks him to where he needs to go. Once they reach the room, Bauman, already thinking about a place he wants to visit, asks Fiona how to get to Redwood. The next morning, Bauman arrives at the towering tree out in Redwood and opens the box holding his parents' ashes. As it turns out, his plan is to scatter them right here, beneath this old, meaningful tree where the two of them once spent their honeymoon. But something seems off. As if he's still carrying some old resentment toward his late father, Bauman tosses the man's ashes carelessly, almost the way you'd empty an ashtray. Even so, he still shows them a measure of respect, leaving both jars resting together in the same spot. And that's when a homeless man suddenly appears and gives Bauman a real scare. The stranger introduces himself as Jerry, a man with an unusual habit of drinking goat's milk mixed with hallucinogenic mushroom powder. He claims the mushrooms can open a person's mind, letting them see reality, the hidden truths buried beneath the surface of the world. Bauman, however, wants nothing to do with it. A little later, Bauman is unwinding at the hotel bar, sampling some Irish liquor. In the middle of their small talk, Fiona asks what brought him all the way out to Ireland in the first place. Holding up a photo of his mother, he explains that his late parents used to honeymoon in this very place, and that all he really wants is to scatter their ashes at their favorite spot, beneath that great tree. On top of that, he admits he'd love to stay in the exact room his parents once rented. Fiona gently tells him that won't be possible. The honeymoon room is no longer open to the public by the owner's orders because it's believed to be haunted, and keeping it open would only damage the hotel's reputation. Then she shares a piece of old Irish folklore with him. If you ever come face to face with the witch, the Cailleach, drawing a chalk circle around yourself works as a kind of supernatural barrier, holding her back and keeping her at a distance. Curiosity getting the better of her, Fiona asks how Bauman's parents died. He's reluctant to get into it, but he tells her the truth, that both of them were shot in the head by someone unknown. As the conversation goes on, a waiter named Albie suddenly joins in. He's worked here for a long time, and he's got a chilling story of his own, the kind he insists is worthy of being a true tale. He says he was once waiting for the elevator to head up to the honeymoon floor, when out of the darkness of the lift shaft, an invisible hand reached out and grabbed at him, until he found himself staring at something truly horrifying. Bauman isn't buying it, though. To him, it's nothing more than a made-up story meant to keep people away from the rooms on that floor. Right then, Albie, who clearly admires Bauman, mentions that he too dreams of becoming a writer, and that he's already started putting his work down on paper. But Bauman, arrogant as ever, brushes him off and belittles his efforts, leaving the poor man genuinely hurt. As the night grows dark, Fiona finishes tidying up and notices that Bauman has left some of his belongings behind. A little later, when she goes to return them, she's puzzled that he won't come to the door no matter how long she knocks. Even though it goes against the rules, a bad feeling settles over her, and she asks Albie to help her open the room. When the door swings open, Fiona is horrified to find that Bauman has tried to do the unthinkable. Meanwhile, somewhere deep in his unconscious mind, Bauman finds himself inside an elevator climbing toward the honeymoon floor, when suddenly a woman's figure appears behind him. After a full week in a coma, Bauman finally wakes up. Once he's cleared and back on his feet, he returns to the hotel to collect his things. After the police have gone, hoping to ease a bit of his own embarrassment, he makes small talk and asks why the hotel looks like it's about to shut down. Peter explains that the place closes every winter, then leads Bauman off to gather his belongings. Still curious, Bauman asks who it was that saved him the night of the incident. Peter tells him it was Fiona, along with the waiter Albie, who found him. Sensing that Bauman hasn't heard the news, Peter reveals that Fiona has now gone missing under mysterious circumstances, vanishing during a Halloween party. The police currently suspect Jerry, since Fiona was said to have interacted with him not long before she disappeared. In an instant, Bauman is hit with a wave of shock, learning that the very person who saved his life is now gone. As he's about to leave, Bauman gets an earful from an employee named Fergal, who tells him bluntly that if all he wanted was to throw the hotel into chaos with a stunt like that, he'd have been better off never staying here at all, and that surviving it only means a lifetime of shame. He adds that ever since Bauman's attempt, the hotel's rating has been sliding lower and lower on Google Maps. Fed up, Fergal tells the troublesome guest to get going already. Inside the car, Bauman briefly replays the moments when Fiona was fighting to save him. Feeling like he owes her a debt he can't ignore, he makes up his mind to find out what really happened to her. His search leads him to Jerry, the man who often camps out in the woods near the hotel. Cutting straight to the point, Bauman asks where Fiona is, since word has it that Jerry is tangled up in her disappearance. Jerry firmly denies it. Fiona was actually his close friend, the one who often brought him food, so there's no way he'd ever do anything to hurt her. Still, Jerry admits he once saw what he believes was Fiona's spirit, as if she were trying to tell him where she was. He explains that one night, while planning to slip into the quiet hotel and steal some medication, his attention was pulled away by the sound of a bell ringing. The bell was coming from the honeymoon suite, and that's when a terrifying figure of Fiona appeared, pointing toward that very bell. Jerry is convinced it was truly her spirit, trying to reveal where her body had been left. As Bauman stands there bewildered, Jerry pulls out an elevator key he managed to steal. Tonight, with the hotel closed, he wants to go and find out what really became of Fiona. His curiosity getting the better of him, Bauman decides to tag along. When night falls, the two set their plan in motion. But once they reach the hotel, instead of heading straight for the elevator, Jerry decides he wants to swipe some medication from Peter's office first and asks Bauman to wait a moment. As bad luck would have it, after a string of break-ins, Fergal had been assigned to camp out at the hotel and catch the thief who'd been causing so much trouble. He nabs Jerry on the spot and hauls him off to the police station. With Jerry now gone, Bauman decides he's already come too far to turn back and presses on alone with his search toward the honeymoon floor. Reaching the abandoned, eerie floor, he immediately begins checking one of the rooms. Then, in the dead silence, a clock suddenly chimes and nearly sends him out of his skin. In the middle of his inspection, Bauman recoils in disgust at the sight of a bathtub filled with foul, bacteria-ridden water. Still, because this was the room his late parents once stayed in, he decides to lie down on the bed and rest for a little while. Strange as it is, he actually manages to drift off to sleep in a place like this, and soon he's dreaming of his childhood. In the dream, young Bauman is watching a television program featuring a creature wearing a rabbit mask, when all at once the sound of a gunshot rings out. Then his wounded mother comes toward him, crying. Whatever that dream was trying to tell him, Bauman wakes up to find Peter standing there, having caught him. Oddly enough, though, Peter isn't angry at all, and simply urges him to leave the place right away. But on his way out, Bauman spots a freight elevator and heads over to take a closer look. Seeing his curiosity, a flustered Peter warns him not to be reckless and open that lift, especially since it's old, broken down, and dangerous. Bauman ignores him and insists on pressing the button anyway, and the freight elevator suddenly rises into view.
No! Okay, we need to move.
He's struck with pure horror at what's inside it, Fiona's lifeless body. As it turns out, the one who killed Fiona was Peter all along. Now that he's been exposed, he bolts and locks Bauman in on the honeymoon floor. Bauman is left in dread, trapped up there alongside Fiona's decomposing body. So what really happened between Peter and Fiona? We're then taken back to the night of the Halloween party, or more precisely, the day after Fiona had saved Bauman's life. On his way out, Peter asked Fiona to finish off a drink he'd made for her. But moments after she drank it, she suddenly collapsed into a deep sleep. Whatever Peter had been scheming, it was now in motion. With Fiona unconscious, he carried her up to the abandoned honeymoon floor, placed her body into the freight elevator, and lowered it down. After piecing together how Fiona died, Bauman is puzzled to discover a recorded tape lying near her body. In the recording, Fiona reveals that she was actually pregnant and had wanted Peter to take responsibility. But Peter, who happens to be married to the hotel owner's daughter, had only been using her, and he flatly refused to own up to any of it. After a long and bitter argument, she never imagined he could be cruel enough to do something like this, leaving her to die slowly in that pitch-black room. With her final strength, Fiona pleads for whoever finds the recording to expose what Peter has done. Meanwhile, Jerry, who has just come to, tries to escape from the car he's being held in, and ends up leaping out while it's still speeding down the road. Back with Bauman, after listening to Fiona's recording, he's stunned to realize her body has suddenly vanished. Eerie sounds begin to fill the room, and a woman's figure abruptly appears behind him. As the terror swells, a shaken Bauman tries desperately to call for help. Then, strangely, a clown program he used to watch as a child suddenly flickers onto the television. The clown seems to pull him back to a tragic moment from his childhood. Back then, a young, mischievous Bauman had been playing with a firearm, and a shot went off that struck his mother in the head. After that, his grief-stricken father came to resent him, treating him almost like an unwanted child. And in the end, unable to bear the weight of his sorrow, his father chose to end his own life. That single tragedy is what has weighed Bauman down with depression all the way to this day. A short while later, after studying a map of the hotel, Bauman realizes there may be a way out somewhere beneath the freight elevator. But with the lift's bottom button out of order, he gets creative and uses the chiming clock to trigger it instead. Once he's set the clock, he hurries into the elevator, though not before moving Fiona's body first. Crammed into that tight little space, he begins his descent toward the lowest level. When he reaches the very bottom, Bauman is unsettled to find a chamber that looks like a dungeon straight out of the Dark Ages. After searching around for a while, he's dismayed to discover that the exit marked on the map has been sealed off permanently. He plays Fiona's recording again, and this time she sounds utterly terrified. To his shock, in her final words, she warns that there's a horrifying figure down here, one that always watches her from the shadows. Refusing to believe something like that could be real, Bauman decides to head back up, especially since the bell is about to ring at any moment. But in the midst of his panic, Bauman's attention is caught by a strange door drawn onto one of the walls in chalk. When the alarm sounds, frightened, he hurries back toward the elevator. It's right then that he can hear something approaching, the sound of a creature drawing closer. Luckily, the freight elevator slowly begins to rise again, even as he can feel that something from the basement is following him. He barely manages to slip away from the horrifying figure that seems to be chasing him. Once he reaches the top, he peers back down through the lift, and to his shock, a clown wearing a rabbit mask suddenly comes striding fast toward him. Bauman slams the door shut. That's when he realizes the creature is already inside the room with him. He scrambles to get away and ends up tumbling into that filthy, water-filled tub. As the thing closes in and panic takes over, with nowhere left to run, an idea suddenly comes to him. He uses the chalk he'd found to draw a circle around himself, hoping to keep the witch-like creature at bay. And luck is on his side, because the hasty makeshift trick actually works. The figure that looks so much like a witch can't break through the chalk circle. So what exactly is this thing? The next morning, a curious Peter returns to the hotel to check on Bauman's condition. But once he's inside, he's startled by all the bloodstains scattered around. On closer inspection, the blood turns out to belong to Jerry, who's badly battered after his jump from the car. In a panic, Jerry begs Peter to help him save both Bauman and Fiona up on the honeymoon floor. But of course, Peter, the prime suspect in Fiona's death, tries to steer Jerry's attention away from all of it. Meanwhile, up in the honeymoon room, Bauman has just woken and tries to confirm whether the terrifying figure from the night before is gone, and sure enough, the witch really has vanished. Peeking outside, he spots a car and assumes Jerry has come back, so he tries to call for help by searching for the bell button. Down below, Jerry keeps insisting on the lie that Bauman is no longer in the hotel. But the moment the honeymoon bell rings out, he warns Peter not to stand in his way, or he won't hesitate to beat him down.
Jerry, what the fuck are you doing? Key.
Cornered, Peter finally hands over the key, Desperate to avoid prison, Peter comes up with a plan to simply burn the hotel to the ground by short-circuiting the electrical wiring. Back to Jerry. Once he reaches the honeymoon floor, he tells Bauman to use the secret door. Bauman manages to get out of the room at last, but out of nowhere, Peter has already made it up to the floor, and Bauman is horrified to see Jerry struck dead by a crossbow bolt.
I live.
After killing Jerry and fearing he's running out of time, Peter decides to flee right away, leaving the two of them trapped on the floor. But once he gets downstairs, he's frustrated to realize the key to the elevator gate is still in Jerry's pocket, which means he can't open it. In the meantime, after retrieving that very key from Jerry's pocket, Bauman quickly hides when he hears Peter coming back. By now, the hotel has begun to burn, and a panicked Peter rushes after Bauman, recklessly heading back down the freight elevator to chase him and get hold of the lift key. When Bauman reaches the bottom level, his plan is to lure Peter toward that old witch, while he himself takes shelter inside the chalk circle. A few moments later, Peter arrives in the basement and looks relieved to spot the elevator gate key hanging from the ceiling. But in that instant, he's caught completely off guard, because in the blink of an eye, he's bound in chains as a terrifying witch appears. This figure really is the witch Brendan always talked about, the one who drags away dirty souls to be tormented in the realm of darkness. Bauman, still weighed down by guilt over his mother's death, can only resign himself to his fate, certain that his own turn is coming any second now. But before long, the spirit of his mother comes to him. She tells him that the little boy he once was did nothing wrong at all. The real fault lay with his father, who had left the pistol carelessly within reach. She gently asks him to stop blaming himself. Then all at once, Peter is finally dragged away to the other realm by the witch and meets his end. And with his heart now clear of guilt, Bauman is able to escape, riding the freight elevator back up to the floors above. As you can see, once Peter is dead, Fiona's body finally seems to be at peace, now that the man who killed her has gotten exactly what he deserved. As luck would have it, Bauman is still saved in time by Fergal, who spotted the fire at the hotel and carries him out of the burning building. A short while later, while Bauman is recovering, he's visited by Albie, who now works selling ice cream. Handing over a photo of Bauman's late mother, Albie shares that the police managed to recover the bodies of both Jerry and Fiona from the scene. Peter's body, however, has gone missing under mysterious circumstances. Then Albie makes a confession. He admits that he was the one who'd actually spiked Bauman's drink with Jerry's hallucinogenic mushrooms, because he'd been so deeply hurt and angry when Bauman belittled him over his dream of becoming a writer. And that's where we're left with the real question. Were all the horrifying things Bauman experienced in that room nothing more than a hallucination brought on by those mushrooms? And is this, in the end, simply a story about murder? So the moral of the story is, be nice to the aspiring writer, or he'll spike your drink and leave you fighting a rabbit-masked witch for a week.